The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Well, the college football playoff ranking is out, and we have a president. We will focus on the college football playoff ranking throughout the program today, as we have a huge show lined up on the program. Not only the college football playoff ranking, which I think bears some discussing and maybe some explanation a little bit. Also, the biggest surprise of the year, especially after we've seen what Miles Kitselman has done, Will Brooks has done. Which player has been the biggest surprise of the year? A guy named McCoy, the real McCoy, as a matter of fact, and a new nickname. The best nickname, I would argue, in the history of Tennessee football goes to one young man who might be one of those great surprises. I don't want to give it away yet, but it's pretty phenomenal. So here we go. We're going to have this day in Tennessee sports history. Cowbells at Neyland Stadium. That's something that has apparently a little bit of traction. Stat of the day as well. 5 balls to watch for the Mississippi State game. The Lady Vols historic season opener. So we have a lot to get to as we'll get off and rolling. First, Caleb Calhoun. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing, Dave?
I'm fantastic, and we will go ahead and get started right now. I remind you that the show is represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. So it's a part of our poll question on YouTube, and it's today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Sometimes we really drill down on today's tough question. Other times I want it to be a little bit more open-ended. So that's what I'm going to do today. And I want your comments, and I'm going to go to them more often than before off the top of the show, because I just want your thoughts. First of all, Caleb, on Tennessee and where they stand at number 7 in the college football playoffs first ranking that came out on Tuesday night, which was the major news of the evening, depending on where you stand. So, Caleb, number 7, I thought that the college football playoff committee might do something quirky, like make them a 6 or a 10 to get people talking. You thought they would be 8. In a sense, 7 is a little bit quirky, higher than most people believe, not just you, but most of the experts at ESPN. And also, I believe the mock draft at The Athletic even had them 9. So I think most people thought 8 or 9. So maybe this is a little bit quirky. Let's just dig into it. What does this tell you about Tennessee and the respect, or lack thereof? Some of you might think they should be 5 or 6, although that's a hard argument to make. I will tell you this, a couple of the things that we brought up yesterday. Number 1 was, would Tennessee get the same respect as a defensive-minded team that they got in 2022 as an offensive-minded team? Well, no, they're not undefeated, and they weren't named number 1. But I think they got strong respect being at number 7. So I think those college football playoff committee members, at least to some extent, did their job. We'll see what happens in a few weeks. The other thing that I want to point out, and I asked Caleb about this yesterday because I wanted to give everybody a little bit of a preview, and that is 7 right now does not mean you're hosting a college football playoff game. It will in the final rankings, but it does not now because of the automatic bids. So to me, Tennessee is right on the cusp, right, Caleb?
Yes, but if the rankings today bore out, Tennessee would host a college football playoff game because there were teams in 3 different conferences ahead of Tennessee as of right now. Now, the assumption is those 3 conferences, those teams would all win their conference title. So the only one below Tennessee is BYU. BYU would be the 4th seed, but that would only drop Tennessee to the 8th seed in the college football playoff. As an 8th seed, they would play a home game, and if it ended today, they would play it at home against Indiana, which, I mean, if you're Tennessee, that's like playing a group of 5 school if you follow Dave's logic. So,
and that would be ultra groovy. The point I wanted to make, though, is just because you're 7, you're not playing 10. Just because you're 8, you're not playing 9 right now. As a matter of fact, when you factor into those bids, Tennessee would essentially be 8. Now, I'm a person who doesn't like the auto bids, and I understand the importance of them, but I would just rather it be the top 12 teams. Nevertheless, Tennessee is in prime position to host a college football playoff game if they take care of their business. Now, Tennessee is going to be about, based off the gambling people that I've talked to, about a 7 to 7.5 point underdog, Caleb, to Georgia. So if Tennessee loses by just a touchdown to Georgia, do you think they hold this position, Caleb Calhoun, or is this something they're going to go out and have to fight for?
I think they do hold this position because I think that, look, I'm just going to say it, Dave, and this is something, and maybe you think this is worth it because despite the money loss, but something you said would happen. There is a lot of bias through the SEC in these college football playoff rankings. And there is a default of if you're in the SEC, you're going to get ranked higher. Alabama is the only 2-loss team in the top 12 that would go to the college football playoff right now. Oregon and Ohio State are 1 and 2, but Georgia's number 3 at 7 and 1. They put Georgia ahead of Miami, who's undefeated. They put 7 and 1 Texas ahead of 7 and 1 Penn State. They put 7 and 1 Tennessee ahead of undefeated Indiana. There was a lot of favoring of the SEC. So I think that if Tennessee plays Georgia close, barring other things work themselves out in the playoff, I don't really see how they would lose their positioning too much. I think last night, and this is what I wrote this yesterday, by the way, regardless, if you're worried about 10-2 keeping Tennessee out of the playoff as a Tennessee fan, you shouldn't be. As long as they don't get blown off the field with Georgia, if they go 10-2, they're in the college football playoff. That's clear as day now.
Okay, but in all fairness, the last time that game was at Georgia, Tennessee, I can't remember the spread. I think it was about 12.5, but they did get blown off the map, essentially. So that is a possibility. And I want to go to Steven's question because I think it's very pertinent. Steven says, Dave, do you and Caleb believe we have to win out to be the only way to guarantee, and he chooses, very good, Steven, you choose a very good word, and guarantee a spot in the college football playoff? I think they're in the college football playoff with a loss to Georgia and probably still host a home game. And I think Neyland Stadium, from a political perspective, helps in that regard because they would love that backdrop. But Caleb, Stephen used the word guarantee. The only way to guarantee would be to win out.
Is it though?
I think it's 95%, but guarantee is a strong word. That's kind of like when you visit with your, let's say, mortgage guy, and you say, he says, hey, I can get you this rate, but to guarantee it, you've got to put down earnest money and or be pre-approved. But I can get you this rate. To me, you only get in the college football playoff as a guarantee if you win out. But I still believe 95% that you would make it. Speaking of, we'll see what the interest rates do in the future. now that we've had a change in the government. But you can always go to Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations, your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chatmortgage.com. They'll help you with your credit. They did so with mine. Chat with 2 T's, mortgage.com. Tell them Off the Hook Sports sent you. So are you willing to say guarantee by just losing close to Georgia and winning out?
Yeah, I'm willing to say guarantee. I'm absolutely willing to say guarantee.
But what if there are, didn't you come up with a concept in which there could be 6 10-2 teams or just 5 10-2 teams?
Yeah, but it looks like they're going to favor Tennessee if they do that. I mean, they have Tennessee at 7 and Alabama at 11, and Alabama is 6-2, and Tennessee's beaten Alabama. You think they're going to drop Tennessee that much if Tennessee loses to Georgia? I don't think they will. And that
I think my 5% of doubt is from distrust of the college football playoff college football playoff committee and what they did to Tennessee in 2022, dropping them behind Alabama.
Yeah, but that wasn't consequential because neither of them actually went to the college football playoff. And also, as John Adams accurately pointed out yesterday, it wasn't the same record in Alabama being ahead. It was Alabama, even though Tennessee beat Alabama, they beat them at home. Alabama lost 2 close games on the last second. And Tennessee got draxed by South Carolina 63-35. Dave, if you were honest with yourself and you were watching that Tennessee-South Carolina game, you would have said, yeah, that Alabama team's better.
No, I wouldn't have. I would have chalked that up to a really bad game, and I would have dug into it and realized that Jeremy Banks acted like a goofball heading into that week. Now, what I would have factored in is that Hendon Hooker was not going to be there. And that happened to Florida State last year. I think if you're putting together a TV show, and don't forget, this happened, this may be before your time, but this happened to John Higgins too. I was told that Tennessee was the 65th team in a 64 NCAA basketball tournament, but they lost John Higgins because he decided to take 4 high-level math classes, and you had to pass 6 hours. He took 12. And you had to pass 6 hours to make postseason play, or there was a ban in order, and he got banned because he only passed 1 of them. So outside of that, I think Tennessee's in great shape. I also don't think they want to get drubbed by Georgia.
No, but that's the whole thing. They can't get blown out by Georgia. Style points are going to matter in this college football playoff. That's clear as day. And that was the other part of what hurt them in 2022, Dave. You and I watched that Georgia game. Georgia beat Tennessee 27-13. That game could have easily been 44-6 if they wanted it to. And the truth of the matter is, I think committee members watched that game and said there's no way that Alabama would get punched around like that the way Tennessee did against Georgia. And you don't think that either. You know Alabama would have put up a fight with Georgia better than what Tennessee put up against Georgia that year. And so I think when you look at it that way,
they had the signs and all that stuff.
Well, Georgia didn't have the signs. South Carolina had the signs.
Well, yeah, South Carolina had the signs. I thought you were reverting back to that game.
No, I'm talking about Georgia. The way Georgia handled Tennessee that year too. It was a 27-13 game. Dave, you and I went live afterward, and what did we say? We said that it could have easily been 40-0 if Georgia wanted it to be. And so what I was saying was that, do you think there's any chance in 2022 Alabama has that type of drubbing against Georgia that Tennessee had?
No.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the committee saw that. And Vegas agreed with the committee. Vegas would have favored Alabama over Tennessee on a neutral field, even though Tennessee beat Alabama that year. So I think when you take all of that into account, yes, Tennessee's going to have to put up a fight against Georgia. They can't get blown out by Georgia. They have to make that game competitive. But if they make that game competitive, they're not only a lock to go to the playoff, provided they win every other game, they're still in contention to host a playoff game if they make it competitive with Georgia. I'll go that far.
Okay, competitive, we're saying a score, a touchdown,
yes,
which is basically what we've been told by our gambling expert, Tyler Wyatt, that number will be. So if they stay within 7 points, 1 score, Tennessee hosts a playoff game, you're willing to go out on that limb right now?
I'll go there. Yeah, if they stay within 7, Tennessee hosts a playoff game.
Okay. The show represented by Banks and Jones. Poll question, tease it forward, Caleb, is?
What are your thoughts on Tennessee's number 7 college football playoff ranking? Love it. Vols have a clear path. Worried a loss may knock them out.
All right. Stay tuned. The show represented by Banks and Jones. We'll have the answer to that poll question in 30 seconds. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. All right, Caleb, what do you got as far as the answers to the poll question?
All right. So what did you make of the Vols number 7 CFP ranking? 60% say worried a loss may knock them out. 40% say love it. Vols have a clear path.
I think you have to say love it. Vols have a clear path based off
totally
number
agree.
7. There's still a 5% of me that doesn't believe that the college football playoff would do the right thing because of either politics or one issue or another, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. David said the only way we lose to Georgia is if the offense shows up or not. It'll be put up or shut up. Same goes for Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. I'm not worried about Mississippi State at all. Slightly worried about Vanderbilt, but Tennessee's offense, I believe, has hit another level, Caleb, and if they have, then I think Tennessee will be fine in the remainder of their games, and that also has to do with keeping it close against Vanderbilt. So, I'm sorry, against Georgia. Tennessee and Georgia will be one heck of a matchup. There's no question about that. And I will say this. I believe Tennessee has the quarterback advantage. And I've said that before. People think I'm absolutely insane, but I am going to stand by that. So that is today's tough question. Let's get to 4 downs now as we discuss the biggest player surprises on Tennessee's football team. Biggest surprises right now. 4 downs brought to you by our good friend Medicare Misty.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
Downs. A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
Okay, here we go. We've got 4 guys we're going to throw at you, and you can go ahead and put them on the poll question because you know who they are, Caleb. And that is, what player is Tennessee's biggest surprise so far this season? Okay, Cooper Mace, if people want to join us and be a part of the program, what should they do? They should not do that. They should.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
All right. So now we're going biggest positive surprise or negative surprise as well.
All positive surprises.
Okay. There we go.
Coop here. First down.
All right. First down, I'm going to go Miles Kitselman. Miles Kitselman. And here's why I go Kitselman, but why he's not the greatest surprise to me, because I saw and heard about things that he was doing in practice. So I am not surprised by what he has been able to do this season. But I would have to say, based off his recruiting, it is somewhat of a surprise, right?
Yeah. Yes. I would say somewhat a surprise. I think more of a pleasant surprise recently. He had some red flags earlier in the year. And that Arkansas game he played horrible in. But since then, he's really turned it around, I'd say. And
I think they went after him to be a blocking. I think the plan was you get Holden Stays and you get Miles Kitselman, and one pans out as a blocking tight end, and Ethan Davis is your receiving tight end. So the fact that Kitselman has become a little bit of both is a very positive surprise. Now, somebody is ahead of us. Will Brooks by a landslide? Maybe.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
All right. Second down, Derek. Here you go. Will Brooks. It's Will Brooks, right?
I mean, I'm leaning Will Brooks on this. Will Brooks is a huge surprise. I thought once Boo Carter emerged, they would put him at safety and have Jacoby Thomas at the nickel spot or one or the other. And Jacoby Thomas is still seeing a lot of action. And then Andre Turrentine, obviously, they're rotating guys in these areas, but I didn't think Will Brooks would find his way into a consistent starting role. I honestly thought he was leading Dave in spring camp. I thought that was a sign the safeties were a major issue.
And I remember you saying that. What would you have said if I would have compared, as I did yesterday, Will Brooks to Jabril Wilson, the fact that he's always around the ball? If I'd have said that in August, what would you have said?
Yeah, I would have said that's crazy. I wanted to address that too, because Jabril Wilson also was a hard hitter. You almost could have lied. He was a less talented Eric Berry, but still pretty good. Is that fair to say? Because he was always around the ball and played very physical.
Yeah, I think I could work with that. Or maybe a less physical Fred White. Fred White was always around the ball, but he absolutely destroyed you when you got it.
That's true. Fred White played like a linebacker.
Right. Now, Fred on the safety physical scale was a 10. Jabril Wilson was still an 8. I don't want to shortchange him whatsoever. All right, what down, Coop?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
Jermod McCoy. I think we all thought he would be good, but did we think he would be perhaps the best lockdown corner Tennessee has had since a guy named Dwayne Goodrich in 1998?
No, and he's been a shock because of that. He was a freshman All-American at Oregon State, but you thought when he got to the SEC and started playing for Tennessee that he would be humbled a little bit. He wasn't humbled at all. He's been amazing. I mean, I think he's the best lockdown corner in the SEC, period. And so he's a surprise in the sense of you thought he'd be a starter and a solid starter. I didn't think he'd be one of the stars. And by the way, Dave, you always talk about receivers who dictate coverage. We don't talk enough about cornerbacks who dictate coverage, because if a cornerback does what Jermod McCoy does, it frees up the rest of the secondary for coverage throughout the rest of the field. I think that's one of the reasons Will Brooks has been able to be so successful despite certain limitations, is because Jermod McCoy can safely lock down half the field.
Certain limitations. Are you referring to him being Caucasianly slow? I hope not. Fourth down coming up, brought to you by Medicare Misty.
19 years this year. Well, I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down.
This one's an incomplete, but you suggested it, so I like taking your opinion. And I don't like just absolutely directing the show. Jeremiah Thielander. He's got 7 tackles in the last 2 games since Keenan Pili went out. Only one, I think, a half tackle for a loss. I think that he's going to be good, but to me, this is a little bit of an incomplete.
Yeah, I put him on here because he has. Look, if Keenan Pili went down at the start of the year again, we thought Tennessee was in deep trouble, didn't we? We thought It was over. Keenan Pili went down, and Tennessee turned right around and beat Alabama because Jeremiah Thielander in the game. That stands out, and that's their best win of the year. So you can't really ignore that fact. So I think that with that in mind, I don't really see a way you ignore Jeremiah Thielander because there hasn't been a massive drop-off. There really hasn't been any drop-off at linebacker.
Now, I thought you didn't like his run fits against Kentucky in particular.
No, Florida. Now, he did play terrible against Kentucky, but I thought Arian Carter played terrible too. And also, they didn't get a lot of help because the defensive line didn't consistently get the pressure it's been getting. So there were other issues, but they did play poorly against Kentucky. I'm giving a mulligan on that because I don't think they were fully prepared for who was going to start at quarterback for Kentucky.
Okay, I threw another poll question up there, if you don't mind, because we've addressed positive surprises, but let's get to negative surprises for one moment. So what's our poll question up there that's up there right as we speak, Caleb?
If there's a negative surprise this season, it's Nico, wide receivers, offensive tackles. Wow, Dave, you just want to throw shots at people.
I'm
Dave
not
is
throwing
just so
shots at
mean.
anybody. I'm just being really honest.
These are very hard working players. Okay. You know, you come at me for going at coaches because you call them leaders of men. And I want to call all these players. I want to point out that all these units are very hardworking and they are great, great, great people.
Okay. Anybody that says Nico because we stoked the fire accidentally and had him rated too high is being unfair to Nico Iamaleava. I'll go ahead and tell you that. So let me get that out of the way. Anybody that says the offensive tackles, you have to discuss injuries. Wide receivers have had injuries too, but that's my most difficult to defend on that list. I'll be interested to see where our voters go. You can vote now on the YouTube channel.
It's mine too because of last week. I hadn't been saying that up to last week, but last week there were some, and I'm actually not holding Drew McCoy accountable the way you and John Adams are. I'm holding the other receivers. Chris Brazel and Chaz Nimrod both were massive disappointments. And so I'm because of that, yeah, I'm going with you. I'm going wide receivers on that front.
Okay. All right. Now, I don't believe it's any of the first team guys because I believe they've had injury issues. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay. But I will say this. I'll say Chaz Nimrod and Mike Matthews have either been disappointing because they haven't played as much or they've been disappointing because they're not as good as we thought. Right now, where do we stand on the YouTube voting page? The poll question, as we call it.
If there's a negative surprise this season, it's Nico, wide receivers, or offensive tackles. Wide receivers, 55%. Offensive tackles, 41%. Nico, 5%.
Okay, and somebody says they accidentally clicked on Nico. Somebody said that yesterday. Rustastic, was that you twice? Are you accidentally voting on people?
Well, also, that, and there's only one Nico vote. So
maybe you're subconscious, though. I mean, Rustastic voted on somebody yesterday, I believe, that wasn't who he meant to vote on, and he tried to take his vote back. I mean, what is this, the election? So,
I want a mulligan on my vote.
Yeah, I'll take that vote back. I would have to say it's the wide receivers. I mean, the offensive tackles have had injuries. The wide receivers have had injuries as well. But when I talk about the depth of the wide receivers, why wasn't Mike Matthews ready to step up for Squirrel White with the shoulder injury? Why wasn't Chaz Nimrod ready to go when they had injuries? That, to me, is befuddling. And I know why in particular Mike Matthews wasn't ready to replace Squirrel White. And this is more on coaching than it is anything else to me. It's the fact that Mike Matthews wasn't prepared to play the slot receiver. You know, he got a pancake block. I don't know if you saw this on ESPN's Get Up with Jeff Saturday. He got a pancake block. Holden Stays got a pancake block. They had a little love fest for the Vols. So I have trouble believing that Mike Matthews isn't physical enough if he's able to go out there and do that. I think they want him to be the next Brew McCoy next year instead of being the Squirrel White if Squirrel White suffers a shoulder injury. Now, nobody can see that coming, but in this particular instance, I would have to say you would have been much better served if Mike Matthews was more prepared to play at the slot receiver position than the wide receiver position. Fair?
Yeah, but also they recruited a specific wide slot receiver for depth here, which would be Braylon Staley. Why hasn't he seen the field? That's a big question too.
Yeah, I haven't seen enough of Braylon Staley or heard enough to think that he's good to go. I mean, that would be my biggest question with him. We'll have the stat of the day coming up. Stat of the day will be brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas, the best spas and pools, or I should say the best spas and pool chemicals right here in Athens, Tennessee. And they do it all. They set everything up. They bring the cover, the steps, everything you need, the best chemicals for your pool and spa. It is right there in Athens. Stop by, mention Off the Hook Sports, and get a free Off the Hook Sports prize and $5 off. How awesome is that? and that would include a book or a t-shirt. It is up to you. And we'll have the stat of the day brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas. The best thing about Dynasty Pools and Spas is that they've got it all taken care of. What does that mean? Well, you stop by their showroom and check out their fantastic selection of top-notch spas in that showroom in Athens. Make your pick and get ready, because Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers within 125 miles of that location in Athens, that fantastic showroom. They've got the cover lift, steps, chemicals, and everything you need. Delivery at no extra charge. They're just down the road in Athens. You pick the spa you want, and it'll be there for you. Oftentimes discounted with military and first responders discounts. Also blemish models, or just mention Off the Hook Sports. That's Off the Hook Sports for $500 off. There's a discount for you on spas made right here in East Tennessee. Support local. Dynasty Pools and Spas also has the best chemicals for you and your spa and your pool. No fillers, just the chemicals made right here in East Tennessee. Support local. Dynasty Pools and Spas, $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. Dynasty Pools and Spas, dynastypoolsandspas.com. All right, so stat of the day brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas. If you haven't stopped by yet, I say why? What do we got as our stat of the day, Caleb?
This is an intriguing one. I want to do one more election-related stat without taking a side politically, because Dave and I don't take sides politically. So I don't even care who won, because I was looking at the college football playoff, and I told you guys that on Monday. But the interesting thing is you could have predicted the outcome of the election, which it looks like Trump's going to win. And you know how you could have predicted it, Dave?
Wait, it looks like Trump's going to win.
He's won. He's won. Yeah, sorry, he's won.
Okay,
yeah.
I was like, is this
the sorry.
thing all over again?
Some places haven't technically called it. It's weird, I know. Anyways, yeah, you could have predicted Trump's going to win. You know how you could have predicted it?
Ow.
Did you think Josh Heupel was going to get fired this year?
No.
I told you guys that every Tennessee coach who's been fired has been fired within a year of an election year. There's a deeper story to this. Every single newly either anointed or elected Democrat dating back to 1963, the year that happened, a Tennessee coach was fired. Let me just bring this up real quick. Joe Biden was newly elected in 2020. Jeremy Pruitt was fired. Barack Obama was newly elected in 2008. Philip Fulmer was fired. Bill Clinton was newly elected in 1992. Johnny Majors was fired. Jimmy Carter was newly elected in 1976. Bill Battle was fired. Now I'm going to get real dark for a minute. JFK was assassinated in 1963, which made Lyndon Johnson president. Jim McDonald was fired that year, which brought in Doug Dickey.
Okay, yeah, that is dark. All right.
That's an insane stat, though, isn't it?
Yes. All right, Brett, just do me a favor. Brighten your day up by going to Dynasty Pools and Spas. Just mention Off the Hook Sports, and you get an Off the Hook Sports prize and $500 off, and they deliver everything. Stay tuned. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. With Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. Give us 2 minutes, and we'll be right back. As could there be cowbell music piped in Neyland Stadium? It could actually happen. What the H? Stay tuned.
I've been in business actually 19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Varner Ford in Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2024 Ford Maverick XLT all-wheel drive, $31,990. 23 Ford Expedition 4x4 Limited, $66,590. 2023 Ford F-150 XLT Super Crew 4x4, $47,995. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Varner Ford, built for the game.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, BanksJones.com.
He tries very hard. The Dave Hooker Show.
All I know is when we win a game, it's a team win. When we lose a game, it's a team loss.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable!
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Welcome back to the program. He is the one, the only Caleb Calhoun. I am Dave Hooker. A lot going on the program today. We encourage you to check it out. Let's go do that right now. Caleb, as far as takeaways from the college football playoff in their first rankings that were announced, any other surprises as the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, BanksandJones.com?
No, it actually is kind of where I expected it to be in many ways. I think the teams I expected to be in there are in there. Where they land was kind of surprising. Notre Dame being all the way down at 10 was kind of shocking, but at the same time, I actually think that I think they got the 12 right. The only other shocking thing was they clearly based this off like who would actually be in, not even though they didn't do it on seeding, they did base it on who they think would be in because they put Boise State at 12th. And I don't think they actually think Boise State's better than SMU, Texas A&M, LSU, Ole Miss, Iowa State, Pittsburgh. I don't think they think Boise State's better than any of those teams, but I think they put them at 12th. So
no, I don't either. All right. So let's get to this. Adam had a comment and we certainly appreciate the super chat there. Adam, Adam, what did Adam have to say? I don't see a comment on his super chat. Oh, he was just being nice. Thanks, Adam. We appreciate that. Now, what are you talking about when you reach out to me this morning and we're going over the show and you say that there could be cowbells piped into Neyland Stadium? Is this a joke?
This actually came from our old buddy John Adams, who published a column on this morning with his score predictions. He said that, so Tennessee's a 25-point favorite over Mississippi State. He says that betting insiders perhaps think UT will pipe in cowbell sound Saturday against the Bulldogs, which is kind of based on the rumors that Alabama started that they were pumping an artificial crowd noise. Now, Adams goes on to say that's nonsense. He reports that colleague Mike Wilson of the Knoxville News Sentinel basically decided to test Tennessee's the way whether or not they pump in crowd noise. And so he stood on the sideline for last week's Tennessee's 28-18 win over Kentucky using earplugs and noticed that Tennessee, they did use the speakers between plays for music and announcements, but not to mess up with the Wildcats' hearing on offense, and that fans apparently just did that naturally. So as Adams points out, the reason Tennessee is really that heavy of a favorite over Mississippi State is because Mississippi State has a terrible defense.
Okay, I feel sorry for reporters that are doing this because there's a reason why they're doing this. It's because you can't ask one-on-one questions of athletes anymore. So the press conferences they have now are totally meaningless, and you just have to go do something else with your time. And if you want proof of that, then we were told how great Tennessee's wide receivers would be 1 to 89. So, yeah, you've got to go sit on the sidelines and come up with something a little bit different to talk about. This is sad. Now, it does take me to a serious point for a second. Mississippi State's kind of been like the cute little guy in your family that, well, let's say like your grandmother. Okay, like your grandmother who's a little bit older and things aren't clicking upstairs the way they used to. So you let you let grandma get away with some things that maybe you wouldn't in other situations. For some, perhaps that she cuts in front of the food line at Thanksgiving. For others, maybe it's some off-putting, outdated sort of weird stance she has on a political issue. I'm not going to get specific. But isn't Mississippi State the one, because of their poor, pathetic nature, of not being a true competitive team in the SEC other than once in my lifetime when they were, I think, number 1 and on the front page of Sports Illustrated, like that's a thing anymore. But Caleb, why do they allow cowbells in Starkville if they don't allow artificial noise, be it speakers or anything else, a wazoo or a kazoo, for the sake of the matter? Because everybody, I think you actually have to have, when you go into Bulldog Stadium, is that the name of it? Presented by Pets R Us.
I'm not actually sure what the stadium is.
Yeah, I'm not either, but it's probably presented by some sort of sponsor. It's Bulldog Stadium, scooped by poopscoop.com. All right, so Caleb, why wouldn't you come down as hard on cowbells? Because you know that, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but you're actually frisked at the stadium to make sure you have a cowbell on you. Everybody just looks the other way at the cowbell, but they're willing to come down on Tennessee. Who doesn't pump in music? And poor Mike Wilson, was it Mike Wilson or Adam Sparks? Poor Mike Wilson has to go sit on the sidelines for the entire game and listen to the speakers to see if they're pumping in noise. Well, of course they weren't pumping in noise. I mean, why is the cowbell allowed?
There's a history of this that you may not know about. But in 2002, SEC presidents voted to penalize teams that pump in artificial crowd noise. I don't know if that penalty still exists, but it existed in 2002. Jackie Sherrill, your favorite person ever at SEC Media Days the next year, said that...
Jackie's boots, don't you? I was looking at snakeskin boots.
He said that he wanted Tennessee... I'm sorry, he actually took a shot at Tennessee. He encouraged Mississippi State to flout the rule and bring in the cowbells and use them anyway. And then he said, do it the same way Tennessee plays Rocky Top over the loudspeaker. As if that was in any way the same thing. And I don't even think they play Rocky Top over the loudspeaker. They may now with that new version of the song they have. But
well, they played when they play the dark mode and they hope it's Halloween, even though it fell right in the middle of the week. They play that. And does everybody else hate this? Wish that I was... Oh no! It's like a spooky version.
Yeah.
Did you notice that one on Saturday?
Oh yeah, they've been doing that all year.
Oh, that doesn't need to happen. I mean, just play Rocky Top.
Just play Rocky Top.
You just play Rocky Top. But my thing is, listen, if you're going to allow cowbells to be present at Bulldog Stadium, find me the name of that stadium. We just keep referring to it as Bulldog Stadium. But if you're going to play that
Davis Wade Stadium.
Yes. If you're going to play that there, then shouldn't you play it? Shouldn't you be able to take your cowbells on the road? What happens if somebody finds a cowbell in Neyland Stadium on Saturday? Should they be removed? I say they should be allowed to stay. what's their right hand going to do with itself if it's not able to shake a cowbell?
Wow, Dave. Oh man, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of privacy with those troughs going on nowadays. They don't have the troughs anymore. The Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use promo code HOOK for 10% off. Promo code HOOK for 10% off. Let's make this a poll question, and that is cowbells. Cool and traditional, or that's artificial noise? Boot them out. The Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOK for 10% off. HOOK for 10% off. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Because if they're able to use them there, Caleb, why shouldn't they be able to use them anywhere else?
All right. So my question is, what do you think of MSU's use of cowbells? Cool and traditional, artificial noise, kick them out.
Yes. Love it.
Well, only Mississippi State could have the story of how they even have the cowbells. You know the story, Dave?
Not particularly, but I've got a better story after you tell yours.
The origin is that either in the 30s or the 40s, and no one knows exactly when, is that a Jersey cow wandered onto the field during a home game against Ole Miss, and the team went on to win. So students started bringing the cow's bell to the games for good luck. And the tradition had continued. Only in Starkville could a cow get loose and wander onto the football field while you were playing a game.
Well, that could have happened in Fayetteville too. Those are the two cities, though.
That would be wouldn't that be a pig that got loose in Fayetteville?
Well, they got cows too. I mean, just
you know what's funny?
Yeah, what?
My dog I have that we adopted, he was a rescue. He's half lab, half Australian cattle dog, part of an accidental litter from Arkansas. Funny enough, he was born there. Very clearly, a farm dog from a farm lab and a farm cattle dog one day somehow mixed up and produced that litter. We kind of figured that out.
Oh, so your dog isn't nearly as inbred as those from Arkansas.
Wow.
I thought your dog was one of those specialty dogs and that it was inbred like dogs from Starkville or other places.
I don't make inbred jokes against communities.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad you don't.
Very classist of you, Dave.
I will say this about the cowbell really quickly. For some instances, popped up on my little YouTube reels or whatever it's called, Facebook reels. And that was Will Ferrell doing an interview. And he was doing an interview with, I think, who's the late night guy? Somebody help me with that on the message board.
There's
Jimmy
Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon. Okay. Yeah, Jimmy Fallon. So Jimmy Fallon, he goes, Will Ferrell goes, that he went to see, what's the guy's name? Help me. Christopher Walken. He went to see Christopher Walken. And he goes after Christopher Walken's performance. And Christopher Walken goes, you've ruined my life. And Will Ferrell says, why? And he goes, everywhere I go, every time I get an ovation, somebody else, more cowbell. He said every time he goes to a restaurant. How would you like your, do you like your shrimp scampi, sir? Yes. Yes, I do. Would you like more cowbell? Says this constantly ruined his life. And I think that cowbells absolutely are not a good thing. If you're not allowing artificial noise at other places, you got to get rid of the cute cowbells.
Man, totally disagree. Let the cowbells roll. It's part of tradition. It's a lot of fun. I disagree with all of y'all. Although, so because the poll question right now is leaning towards you, Dave, and I am leaning towards, do you guys not love tradition? Do y'all just want to get rid of all SEC tradition?
Well, that one, though, listen, okay, let's say Mississippi State became relevant and they're suddenly seating 85,000. They grow their stadium. I think now they seat about 60. But let's just say that they Christopher Walken let SNL turn his acting career into a joke, pretty much. I mean, he was in The Deer Hunter, for goodness sake. Caleb, listen, if you're able to walk in there with a cowbell, you should be able to walk in there with a big twisted around kazoo thing. Why not anything else? Why not drums? Where does it stop?
Well, there are drums. It's called the marching band.
Okay. Where do the volunteers get their nickname?
From obviously the service. I believe it was in the War of 1812, but it may have been the Mexican-American War.
Okay. So I assume that whichever war that was, they took guns, right?
Yes.
So
are you saying they should like guns in the?
You should allow Tennessee fans to bring in guns and fire them up into the air.
You want 100,000 drunk Tennessee fans with guns in the
Yes.
stadium?
Whenever Tennessee, I'm dead serious. Whenever the opposition, they can be blanks, but whenever the opposition has the ball, you should be allowed to just fire a 6-shooter into the air.
Are you sure that everybody would remember to make sure there were blanks? You know somebody would screw up and forget it was loaded, Alec Baldwin style.
Ouch. Well, that maybe would make it a little bit more exciting. This day in Tennessee.
Wow. Okay, Dave.
This day in Tennessee sports history is brought to you by our friends at TristarHatsCo.com. TristarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co. What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TristarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TristarHatsCo.com. That's TristarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TristarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do to save an additional 10% off. TristarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
All right, this day in Tennessee football history is, Caleb?
On this day in 1965, Tennessee had what may have been its breakout game and its emergence as a football program in the Doug Dickey era. I'm just going to give you guys a little backdrop first. In 1964, Doug Dickey's first year, as he was trying to usher in a new era, Tennessee went 4-5-1 that year. In 1965, they started the year 3-0-2, having tied Auburn and Alabama, but beaten Army, South Carolina, and Houston, and nobody knew what to believe of them. But on November the 6th, they welcomed 7th-ranked Georgia Tech into Neyland Stadium and beat them 21-7, which put them in the top 10. They lost the next week to Ole Miss, but they did finish 8-1-2 and finished in the top 10. That was really the game that kind of showed this is a legit program that has arrived under Doug Dickey.
Okay. Let me ask you this question. Is it time for Tennessee to seriously consider changing kickers? Before we get to that, you had the Jeff Levy, Josh Heupel connection. Your thoughts? Is that an advantage for either side? They have coached together. They know each other. They run a similar type of offense. Does this help either or in this particular game?
You know, I was really thinking about this for a while, and I kind of came around to the realization that I think this might help Jeff Levy more than Josh Heupel.
I think so too, because Josh Heupel has a more talented team.
Yes, and Jeff Levy knows Josh Heupel's trends. I think Jeff Levy, like Alex Golesh, wasn't just a puppet to run Josh Heupel's offense. I think he was another voice in the room. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So I think he kind of has his own offensive acumen while also understanding what Josh Heupel wants to do. And I think there is a bit of a history of Josh Heupel not adjusting well when you throw something at him that he hasn't seen. We saw that with Eli Drinkwitz last year. We've seen that a couple of times this year. So if Jeff Levy throws a different look at Josh Heupel, Dave, that he hasn't seen. If anybody's capable of doing that, it's Jeff Lebby, right?
Well, I would say this. I think it helps whoever doesn't have the most talent. And Tennessee has the most talent. So they're probably going to play things by script, right? On schedule. I think the team that comes into this game and says, hey, we might have to do something wild like a 3-3-6 or a 3-3-5 or whatever the case may be. Or I guess it would be 4-3. But anyway, we have to play extra. We have to play fewer defensive linemen. We have to play a different look defensively, a nickelback, and perhaps a dime back. I don't think that Josh Heupel thinks about that. I think he thinks about just get the best players on the field. Tennessee has more talent. Lebby, however, if I were him, I would be looking at unique ways to slow this offense or beat this offense, right?
Yeah. I would be looking at ways to I would be doing both of those things, and I think you're looking more at how to beat the offense. You're looking at more just how to beat the offense and to shut them down. Because I think what we've seen is if you throw a different look, you can do that. Because it ain't like Eli Drinkwitz just slowed the offense last year. He shut it down. And the same holds true for Sam Pittman this year by throwing a different look. So I think you're looking to shut it down.
Now, the flip side, I don't think it really helps Josh Heupel at all because I think he's got the better talent. I think that he's going to be able to stop Lebby's offense, not because it's schematically unsound. I think you and I both think he's going to be a good X's and O's coach. But, Caleb, I don't believe that his offense has the pieces in place to be able to have a successful day.
Yes. I mean, look, Jeff Lebby's offense is not – but from the other side, Jeff Lebby's not going to be able to throw an offensive wrinkle at Josh Heupel and do anything different. But we expect Tennessee's defense to shut down Mississippi State. Look, Mississippi State's just bad across the board. But I think Jeff Lebby could throw a different defensive look, as bad as Mississippi State's defense has been. And it's bad. It's terrible. And it may not matter because, honestly, Dave, if you're Tennessee, you can just run the ball every time and no one's going to be able to tackle Dylan Sampson. But I think there's a better chance of Jeff Lebby maybe throwing a wrinkle defensively to slow Heupel's offense down, particularly since Tennessee's offense has not been consistent all year anyway, than the other way around. I don't think Heupel has to throw a different defensive look at Jeff Lebby and Mississippi State. They're just going to shut down Mississippi State.
No, I don't think so either. The UPS store Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated. The link is right down below, owned by Tennessee fans, the UPS store Hardin Valley. So what opportunity does Lebby have to beat Tennessee? Does this have to just be a Tennessee off game? Is it as simple as that?
That and Mississippi State, Jeff Lebby has to throw a different defensive look like I'm talking about. Tennessee has to have an off game and not play with their hair on fire. And then, honestly, the third level is Mississippi State has to have improved to a significant degree beyond what we've seen them able to do to this point. That's possible. I thought they would as the year went on. They're not as bad as they were in September, but they're still not a good football team.
I also wonder, too, how the crowd will be in this regard. How excited is the crowd going to be? I see more and more tickets for sale, and this could speak to your criticism of the college football playoff and the regular season having less of an impact. I mean, I wonder if some Tennessee fans are looking at this like, hey, they're probably going to have a home game. So would I rather save my money for that? Would I rather have a little bit of extra money? Because there's some people that spend thousands of dollars to put their tailgate together. Do they think, hey, I'm going to take the Mississippi State game off? It's been a bunch of night games in a row. I wonder how the crowd will be. It's always, a B+? But it's been an A+ this year. Does it continue to be an A+ and that tough to overcome? I mean, I'm grasping at straws, and I would encourage those on the message board to find a way that Mississippi State can keep this ball game close.
Yeah, those are the only three ways that I brought up. And you're right. The fourth is the crowd has to be out of it. But I don't see – I think the crowd – I don't see any reason they would be. The only reason they might be, and Dave, we talk about this, the inaugural college football playoff rankings came out. This is a night game. I keep warning about this. There's going to be more and more, and Jacob Ward admitted this to us on Monday. They watch the games when they're waiting on a night game. They do. And if they're watching it, crowds watch it. You don't think Tennessee fans are going to be glued to the TV watching all these other games and seeing how it affects their playoff chances rather than focusing on the Kentucky game? The Mississippi State game?
It's a very fair point. Very fair indeed. I wonder if some of that will go on. Peak IV Hydration, South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. PeakIVHydration.com. If we can drop that in the chat. The chat? What? The show represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. You didn't even realize what I just accidentally said, did I?
No, I'm trying to drop the link in the chat. What did you say?
Yeah, you don't lie. It's a bad word. Steven says, Dave, do you and Caleb believe if we don't have a strong fan presence in Athens, it will hurt us? I think your strong fan presence for any team that's elite, like Georgia is only going to be at best, 20% on the road, more like 10 to 15% on the road.
Yeah, and Dave, you've covered this more than I have. Does road fan presence really impact a game? Unless you get the majority of fans there. Like you're talking, when it's on the margins of 10 to 15 to 20%, does it really matter in an SEC game?
No, and that's the only reason you like neutral site games. Stay tuned. More after this, including the should Tennessee look at changing kickers? Let's be real here. Max Gilbert was 0 for 3, but he's been great until this point. Stay tuned. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation and is of Off the Hook Sports, the show represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at nfc1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Step up your game in this 2024 F-150 4x4 Super Crew STX, $46,994. 24 Ford Expedition XLT, $59,978. 24 F-250 Crew Cab 4x4 STX, $57,888.
Local you trust, performance you can afford. Varner Ford, built for the game.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Welcome back to the program. Josh Heupel said something interesting about the kickers. I want to get into that as he kind of just played it off, which was a bit strange to me, Caleb. Tell me about Max Gilbert, what you think of him, what you thought of him heading into the Kentucky game before he missed 3 field goals.
I thought Max Gilbert was a potential weapon for Tennessee. He's got a leg that can go, he looks like he can hit field goals beyond 50. He hasn't done it yet, but he's come close. And I had this feeling that Max Gilbert could be a long-term reliable weapon for Tennessee on the level of James Woolhoit and Jeff Hall, who I think are the two gold standards of kickers in Tennessee, in my lifetime at least.
Okay, so what do you think of him now that he went 0 for 3?
I think it was his first year starting, and he gets a mulligan. I've seen this happens consistently with kickers, guys. I don't know if you know this, but typically kickers that turn out to be very good have at least one really bad game their first year starting. That is just, history bears that out consistently. James Woolhoit, his first start against, I think it was Fresno State, missed a very easy kick, one that had Fulmer screaming at him afterward. And then he turned out like 3 weeks later to hit a 50-yard field goal at Florida. Kickers in general, kicking's next to golf, there was not a more mentally stressful job than kicking, honestly, in sports. Is that fair to say?
That's right up there. Now, you mentioned, hitting a clutch free throw and choking the way Derrick Rose style would be one. But
that's true.
Yeah, when I look at Max Gilbert and what unfolded on Saturday, here's my issue with it, is that it could become a mental thing. Let's go back to James Woolhoit. What was his most famous day? It was when he beat Florida, right?
Yep, with the 50-yard field goal.
Right. Some people don't remember that he missed an extra point right before that would have tied the game. And it looked like Tennessee had all the momentum and probably would win it at home in overtime, right?
Correct.
Okay. So he missed that field goal or that extra point, and he made the field goal. He didn't miss 3 in a row. And pressure on kickers is a real thing, says Stephen Berryman. And I agree with that. That's why I would give Josh Turbeville a hard look this week. Now, you're playing mental games either way. You're sending him out there against, let's forget about Mississippi State. They're not going to need a field goal against Mississippi State, but they might need a field goal on the road to beat Georgia. So Correct. You're sending him out there with even more pressure on him and no redeeming quality. Now, maybe he kicks a couple of field goals against Mississippi State, but there's zero pressure there if Tennessee plays like it can. They're 24-point favorites, for goodness sake. There was some pressure in the Kentucky game because Tennessee's offense was struggling. So you haven't had a chance to redeem yourself, and you didn't just miss one chip shot or one extra point like James Woolhoit. You missed 3 in a row. That makes me think that it's creeping into his subconscious. That makes me wonder about him as a player that can rebound from an 0 for 3 mistake. I also tell you, I was told this, that the battle between him and Turbeville was incredibly close at the beginning of the year. And I will tell you right now that I would open it up, and it may erode Gilbert's confidence even more. But Caleb, I would open up the kicking duties because, listen, you're going into a game against Georgia. You're probably going into the college football playoff. And Tennessee, unless Tennessee plays lights out offensively, they're going to need a clutch play at some point, and that clutch play might come from the kicker, Caleb. So that's my issue, and that's why I would have an open competition, because I believe the two were very close to start the year.
I've heard that too, but I also think that you don't really help not only your starting kicker psyche, but your backup kicker psyche if you throw them in a week before you're about to play Georgia. I'll say this. This is, as a head coach, managing kickers is one of the hardest things you have to do. Why? Dave, most of the time, there's nobody on the staff that actually can coach the fundamentals of kicking, right? They don't bother with that.
Well, you say don't bother. They don't typically have the coach. You're only allowed 8 assistant coaches, so you don't have the manpower.
And the special teams.
They should have a quarterbacks coach. That's why David Cutcliffe was so valuable, because he could do both.
Right. Like the special teams coordinator is usually just a guy getting a title, right? He's not like a former kicker or anything like that. So the hardest thing you have to do as a coach is figure out how to help coach up the kicker when you have nobody on your staff that actually coaches kicking. but then on top of that, manage the psyche of the kickers. And this is where I'll say this. This is where coaches can have an intangible skill, as much as I trash them, that goes beyond the in-game probability decisions they make, is how do you manage with the kick? How do you deal with the kicker's head and keep their head space in the right, keep their head in the right space? And that is a really hard thing to do. And Dave, I think you're playing with fire if you just say, because of one bad game, I'm benching this kicker and bringing the other one because it's performance based like any other position. I don't think it's easy to do that.
I think you're playing with fire if you take Max Gilbert down to Athens, Georgia, and expect him to hit a game-winning kick. I mean, he missed a 31-yarder, for goodness sake.
Okay, but let me ask you this. If Nico Imaliava came out and threw 4 interceptions, you wouldn't say put in Gaston Moore.
Well, no, because Nico would get an opportunity to go out there either during that game. Nico ran out of bounds is a better comparison, right, against Arkansas.
Correct.
No, I'm not going to replace him because I don't think Gaston Moore is even close. But I'll tell you what, if I had, well, let's go back to the days where they substituted Todd Helton and Brandon Stewart in there. If I thought they had somebody close, maybe I would take a look at it. They had situations in which Schaefer and Ainge were close and they went back and forth. In 2005, they really messed the bed by going back and forth. But that's not a good comparison because I think Turbeville is a guy of equal ability or close to equal ability.
Okay, but sometimes even
you don't
when there's
think Gaston Moore's close, do you?
No. I don't think Gaston Moore is close. But sometimes when there's guys close to equal ability, you still stick with one guy because you don't want to throw him to the wolves with one bad game. I mean, now, just to give you another example, with quarterbacks, you covered the team closer than I did, but were there not quarterbacks on the roster that at least were close to Jonathan Crompton's ability in 2009 when he was struggling so severely? And didn't Lane Kiffin do the right thing by sticking with Crompton no matter what?
Well, it depends what you think about B.J. Coleman, right? I mean, B.J. Coleman, the previous
Who was David
year,
Cutcliffe's prized bull.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that I think there was an issue off the field between the Cromptons and David Cutcliffe. I think that was the reason behind that. I think he decided he liked BJ because he didn't like being told who he should play. So, I mean, that's where I am with that. Quality Tire Pros, serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brakes, alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com, QualityTirePros.com. Tell Bo that Off the Hook Sports and Dave said hello. Let me ask you this. How confident are you in Max Gilbert that he can hit a game-winning kick in Athens against Georgia? Are you 100% confident? 30-yarder. You've said before that all 30s and ends should be made at the college level. And I think
I'm actually all 40s and ends at the college level.
40s and ends. Okay, 40-yarder. How confident are you right now that he can hit a game-winning field goal in the final seconds against Georgia?
I'm 50-50. We haven't seen enough of him to know his clutch gene. I don't think this one game is you throw him to the wolves, Dave. I don't think you throw a first-year starter at kicker. I don't think you get rid of them after one bad game. All first-year starting kickers do this, guys. All first-year starting kickers have a really, really, really bad game their first year. Then they start to get right. Let's see what, you know what? Tennessee luckily has a game to determine it this week. I'll split the baby with you a little bit.
Okay, but they don't have. They do, but they don't. I mean, they have a week of practice where it really doesn't mean anything. You get Josh Turbeville out there and see if he can drill them right down the middle.
I say you start Max Gilbert again this week and see how he does on some field goals. Just settle for a field goal at some point if you're in a blowout win at Mississippi State. Plan to settle for at least one field goal and see what he does. And if he makes it, I think his mind is right again. I mean, look,
Richard says he has 3% confidence.
This is like, it's the way I say kicking is like golf. Just something like that can trigger you to start playing right again because it's so hard to get mentally in the right space. My best example is when some unfortunate photos of Tiger Woods leaked. That's when he got right back in the right headspace and finally went back and won the Masters. And that happens sometimes.
Okay, so you're suggesting that we leak private photos of Max Gilbert, and that should make him a better player. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I'm not suggesting that because someone's going to take that seriously and try to do that. So no, I'm not suggesting you leak private photos of Max Gilbert. Don't do that, guys. I'm not calling for that. That would be a horrible thing. What I am saying...
The salaciousness Double D Piping.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
All right, so you believe he's got a 50-50 shot of hitting a 40-yarder in Athens. That's not good enough. To me, you've just illustrated you don't have enough belief in this young man.
What do you mean I don't have enough belief? I'm saying 50-50, but I'm saying see what he does against Mississippi State this week. If he hits a couple of field goals, he gets right mentally, and then he's ready for Georgia. I know what he's capable of. The only question we have is he in the right headspace? And that's really hard to project for a kicker.
Okay, here's our new poll question. I'm blank concerned about kicker Max Gilbert in the clutch. Very, somewhat, not at all. And I'm going to guarantee you that because we have the most intelligent listeners / viewers in the world, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, that Barry is going to win out. And I think that you're going to have to eat some crow before the end of the program.
I'm not going to have to eat some crow. You can be very concerned, and I'm not eating crow unless Max Gilbert misses a 30-yard field goal to beat Georgia.
But you realize how much you're gambling on that, Caleb? You're like, what you're doing is essentially playing a 25-team parlay.
Well, I'll put Quincy's college fund on it.
Don't do that. We promise not to do that. I'll tell you where they will take care of you. It's Dynasty Pools and Spas, $500 off, and an off-the-hook sports prize just for stopping by in Athens, where they deliver everything to you, completely taken care of there at Dynasty Pools and Spas. You know, the best thing about Dynasty Pools and Spas is that they've got it all taken care of. What does that mean? Well, you stop by their showroom and check out their fantastic selection of top-notch spas in that showroom in Athens. Make your pick and get ready, because Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers within 125 miles of that location in Athens, that fantastic showroom. They've got the cover lift, steps, chemicals, and everything you need. Delivery at no extra charge. They're just down the road in Athens. You pick the spa you want, and it'll be there for you. Oftentimes discounted with military and first responders discounts. Also blemish models, or just mention Off the Hook Sports. That's Off the Hook Sports for $500 off. There's a discount for you on spas made right here in East Tennessee. Support local. Dynasty Pools and Spas also has the best chemicals for you and your spa and your pool. No fillers, just the chemicals made right here in East Tennessee. Support local. Dynasty Pools and Spas, $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. Dynasty Pools and Spas, dynastypoolsandspas.com. All right, Caleb, our stat of the day is what?
Oh, we already did stat of the day.
We already did stat of the day, and it was exciting. It was tremendous, and we've done this day in Tennessee sports history as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. All right, let's get to 5 balls to watch for the Mississippi State game. I'm always interested to see where Caleb goes in this direction, because he likes to go a little bit off schedule, which is good. There are some guys that are more important to watch than others. I don't know which direction he's going to go now, because this Mississippi State team is absolutely horrendous. So the 5 balls to watch are...
Yeah, so the 5 balls to watch, and some of them are just usual suspects of who you expect to perform in every single game. So we'll start with...
I'm going to go ahead and tell you who should be number 1.
I'll tell you who should be number 1, and you're going to be wrong on who you tell me should be number 1. I'll just tell you that right now.
I'm going to be wrong about the thing that Caleb writes. All right, go ahead.
Number 5, Nico Iamaleava. Mississippi State is in the bottom 130 in pass defense, or it's like in the 120 to 130 range in pass defense. Nico needs to finally have a field day. I've been saying it all year, but how do you not do it against Mississippi State? He's been getting better. Like, this is his game to play well.
Nico throws for over 350 yards, yay or nay?
Nay, he hasn't done that all year, but I think
he does. All right. Who's next?
Next is again another obvious one, but Mississippi State is the worst tackling team in the history of football. Not the history of football, but they're a pretty darn bad tackling team. Okay, so because of that, Dylan Sampson. You guys want to talk about Dylan Sampson becoming the most productive running back in Tennessee history? That could happen in this game. I think Dylan Sampson should go for 200.
That's crazy.
He's only going to play a half. Who's next, Caleb?
Up next for Tennessee is one more obvi, but James Pierce. Guess how many sacks Mississippi State has allowed on the year, Dave?
1,800.
No, not 1,800. Okay, that's John Adams' birthday. Sorry. I'm sorry. I just had to joke on that.
Hey now.
29. They are terrible at protecting the quarterback.
Good gravy. That's 3 a game.
Yeah. James Pierce should just have fun, shouldn't he?
Yes.
James Pierce should just, eat and eat and eat some more.
Yeah.
I'm your huckleberry.
All right. Who's next?
All right. Up next is number 2. I was trying to figure out which receiver should stand out for Tennessee because Mississippi State has pretty much every week a different type of receiver for a team stands out against them. But I'm going to go Dante Thornton because I think Dante Thornton is kind of the guy that is best equipped to torch the secondary the most, even though anybody could. Miles Kitzelman could. Prue McCoy could. Squirrel White's banged up, though. Chris Brazel and Chaz Nimrod should be in the doghouse from last week. So I think Dante Thornton is the guy that Tennessee should look to get the ball to and make a lot of plays throughout the game.
I will agree with that. Who's next, Caleb?
Number 1. You're going to love this. Halloween is over, but I'm ready to say boo. Here's why Boo Carter is number 1. And I want to tell you guys why Boo Carter is the most important player for Tennessee in this game. Mississippi State's offense has been slowly coming together in recent weeks, okay? That's the one part of them that's been improving as bad as their defense is. Part of that is their slot receiver, Kevin Coleman, who leads the team in receiving. Boo Carter is going to be tasked with him all game. Boo Carter has shown flashes. Every now and then he gets out of position, but a lot of times he plays hard. But this is his chance to thrive. And he's already had a breakout game, but this is his chance to look like a superstar. And for fans to say, yep, Boo Carter is the next Eric Berry. It is Boo Carter. I think Boo Carter should be a superstar in this game.
Okay. I want to remind you that we had this question up on our poll question. I am blank concerned about Max Gilbert in the clutch. 20% said not at all. 20% said very. 60% said somewhat. New poll question that is up as you left out the most important ball to watch. What is the new poll question, Caleb?
The new poll question is, you're somewhat concerned about Max Gilbert in the. Oh, here we go. Who is the most important player to watch against State? Max Gilbert, anyone else?
It's Max Gilbert.
What if Tennessee never has to kick a field goal, though?
They're going to have to kick something, and at this point, I'm not sure he's not going to miss extra points. I mean, seriously, if he goes out there and misses another one, are you not red alarming this thing?
Yes, I'm red alarming it, but I don't think it'll determine whether or not Tennessee handles Mississippi State or not.
Right. So this is a glorified scrimmage. So who did you want to see in the orange and white game? We wanted to see guys like Peyton Lewis, which I know is hurt, Cam Selden. I mean, I could go on and on about guys that come in with a lot of talent that you want to see. I want to see that Max Gilbert's got his head on straight.
I think you're insane on this. I think you're you're overreacting to one bad game from Max Gilbert. I guess you want to see if he has his head on straight, but I don't think he would be key to these important players are about the keys to actually winning the game. And
they're going to win the game.
I mean, Tennessee, yes, but how easily can they win the game? Can they put the game away? Now, maybe if Max Gilbert misses some field goals and extra points, all of a sudden Mississippi State hangs around longer than Tennessee wants him to. So maybe that makes him a key in this game. But truth be told, Dave, no, Max Gilbert, you're doing it to evaluate the talent, not because you need him to go win the game for you. And I'm sorry, I can't say Max Gilbert. Boo Carter's more important than Max Gilbert.
Okay. What would you do? And I'll just leave it at this. If you were Josh Heupel, would you put your arm around Josh Turbeville and say, hey, bud, it's in between you and me, but be ready to go? Or would you hold an open kicking competition this week? Or would you just go status quo? Nothing's changed.
I would just go status quo. Nothing's changed. And that's an easy way, because if he struggles again, then you realize that he can't handle it mentally. And then you can make the switch. I am still saying that, but Dave, what about this? Are we sure Nico Iamaleava's psyche is okay? Should he be number one? I mean,
yeah, I think his psyche's fine. He's played really well the past 6 quarters. Well,
yes, but how frustrating is it to start playing well and then your receivers start letting you down?
I think he'll continue to make the right reads because I think he knows that he would find his way in trouble along with the wide receivers. But bank on it. Josh Turbeville deserves a shot. Brought to you by Commercial Bank. Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. Give Josh Turbeville a shot. Bank on it.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button, a like and subscribe button. You do pick Boo Carter number 1. Let's readdress that if we can. Why do you say Boo Carter number 1? Do you think he has a big impact in this game?
I think Boo Carter, again, is going to be tasked with Mississippi State's best offensive weapon in Kevin Coleman, who is a slot receiver who leads the team in receiving. I think Boo Carter is going to have to stick to him like glue in this game just to make sure Mississippi State doesn't score a lot. Look, Mississippi State, because their offense has been coming together, Dave, Tennessee's offense has been horrible in the first half for 4 straight games. Tennessee, their offense has been horrible in the first half. If that continues and Mississippi State's offense keeps improving, they're hanging around for a half. And Boo Carter is the most responsible for making sure that does not happen. So, yeah, I think Boo Carter is crucial to Tennessee in this game.
I will say this. I think that Boo Carter has a monstrous game for a couple of different reasons. I think he's used to seeing this type of offense in practice is one. I think that the coaches believe in him more. He hasn't done anything goofy in a couple of weeks, right? I mean, he had the late hit out of bounds. He did the was it TikTok or Instagram in the locker room. I mean, that wasn't real smart. That's not going to endear yourself to the coaches. So from all that I've been told, both on and off the record, he is ready to take the next step. So I gave you a hard time about the Gilbert thing, but I think you may be onto something with Boo. You can be onto something with work trucks, all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle available. Time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down, has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is all about time. Work Trucks saves you time with less back and forth trips and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process is also quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with an app pod, work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Truck supplies vehicles to people just like you and get you back on the road tomorrow. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you need to know Work Trucks. That's a fact. Service industry, Work Trucks. Work Trucks carries the trucks that your business has to have. You need Work Trucks. Clinton Highway in Knoxville and in downtown Birmingham. For the entire inventory, go online to worktrucksllc.com. That's with an X, worktrucksllc.com. Don't risk that future of your business to any other truck. Work Trucks will find the perfect truck for you, outfit it, make sure it fits your needs to a T. Work Trucks with an X, LLC, proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. The Lady Vols with a historic season opener. We'll get to that. And also more thoughts on Cowbells, Max Gilbert, and what the Vols should do moving forward. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
2024 F-150 4x4 Super Crew STX, $46,994. 24 Ford Expedition XLT, $59,978. 24 F-250 Crew Cab 4x4 STX, $57,888.
Local you trust, performance you can afford.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best in fire prevention.
Welcome back to the program. He is Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. We get off and rolling right now.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
All righty, Caleb Calhoun. Let's go back to the 5 balls and then Max Gilbert for a bit. If we can discuss that here momentarily. First, I want to get to the Lady Balls. And the Lady Balls look pretty darn good once again. Now, the first was in an exhibition game. This one counts. What do you think of the Lady Balls and their penchant for scoring a whole lot of points?
And we mean a whole lot of points. It's not the points they score, Dave. It's how they score them. Tennessee, yesterday was the first game of the Kim Caldwell era. And they set a school record for steals in a game. In the first game of the Kim Caldwell era. Dave, how long was Pat Summitt coach Tennessee?
Oh, gosh. Was it 27 years?
38 years.
38. Oops.
Won 8 national titles, loaded up the WNBA with talent, had like maybe 5 of the most talented teams of all time. She never had a team ever generate 27 steals in a game. Tennessee had 27 steals in a game and forced 37 turnovers. They played up-tempo all night. Talasia Cooper had 7 steals, which is an insane number on its own. Kenaya Boyd had 4 steals off the bench. Z Spearmint had 2 steals. Sarah Puckett had 4 steals. Ruby Whitehorn had 3 steals. Jules Spear had 4 steals. This team is, look, I don't know how good they're going to be. Actually, they beat Sanford 101-53, but they're going to turn up the tempo a lot. And by the way, some of the concerns surrounding them, including 3-point shooting, are issues. Sarah Puckett was 0-4 from 3. They were only 10 of 34 from 3 on the night, and they still managed to drop 101 points because they scored so many points in transition. I mean, their leading scorer was Z Spearmint. She only hit 1 3, but she had 25 points. because she had 2 steals and she was the beneficiary of a lot of plays and buckets in transition. Same with Talaysia Cooper, who didn't even have a 3, but scored 19 points, was second on the team in scoring because she had 7 steals and was just dominant in transition. I mean, look, there's a lot to say about this Lady Vols team. They're going to be one of the most fun team. They're going to be, I'll say this, they're going to be the most fun basketball team at Tennessee to watch this year.
Okay, let me set up a poll question here. Which or who are you most excited about? Is it men's hoops or women's hoops? So which do you think Tennessee fans should be most excited about?
I think in terms of production, men's hoops, I think men's hoops will get it together and it's still going to be a very, very strong force in the NCAA tournament. I don't know how far women's hoops can go this year, but if you are looking to be entertained, you should be more excited about women's hoops because they are going to be one of the most entertaining things you have seen in a long time. I'll just say, I think it's going to bring fans back to Thompson Bowling for the Lady Vols like you've never seen before, because this is just such an amazing style of play to watch. It is. Danny White understood the assignment and understood that hiring is about marketing, because this was a marketing move. I still don't know how good they're going to be. They haven't played anybody good, but they will be fun to watch. I can just say that.
Go ahead and click that like and subscribe button if you want to take part in the poll question. Do so right now. And it is this: what are you more excited about, men's hoops or women's hoops? Women's hoops with an early lead, 62% to 38%. Men's hoops, and I know they made the Elite 8 last year, but until Rick Barnes shows me consistently that he's changed his approach like he did last year, and we think he did in the first game this year, right?
Yes.
Until I see that consistently, I'm always going to think at best he's going to make the Final Four, and he probably won't do that. That sounds awful to say, and I know they ran into Zach Edey, who was the 2-time player of the year, and that's an unusual circumstance. But, Caleb, I just can't get past my head that Rick Barnes is going to be like Marv Levy. He's going to be one of the greatest coaches to never win a championship. And if that's the case, it's hard to get excited. Kim Caldwell, and the fact that he's 70, so how many more years does he have? Kim Caldwell is young, has an exciting brand of basketball. I also got super excited about watching Dalton Connect. I mean, I went to a game as a fan, which I rarely do, just to watch him play. So, I mean, I got to disagree with you. I think the women's program is more exciting in this particular year for a number of reasons than the men's program.
I think that you're overestimating age and underestimating the future of Tennessee basketball under Rick Barnes. I think Rick Barnes, as I've said, is uniquely equipped for this era with NIL and the transfer portal to get certain players he wants. So I've said for a while, Rick Barnes is 70. There are 45-year-old coaches hired right now who will retire before him. There's some
truth to that.
Yeah, because I think Rick Barnes could go another 10 years. Honestly, he looks in great shape. He's very religious to the point where I think he's got like a Zen-like feel about him, where he's not like worried about aging. I honestly look, Dave, I'll just say this. I'm not so sure he drinks. I don't think he does. So I think he's in very, very good shape and very healthy. I think he's that type of guy that could coach until he's like 85 and have all of his wits about him and all of his energy about him. So, look, I think Rick Barnes has a long time ahead of him. And look, if you look at history of sports and coaching hires, if I say he has 10 years ahead of him, Dave, if I told you right now you could get 10 years out of a really, really good coach in any sport, that's what you want when you hire a coach, right? Most of them, you don't even get 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, you're at the point where if Kevin Durant has a son, maybe you get him. Rick Terry Jewelry Design, they want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com. Again, RickTerryJewelry.com. I know how getting over 70 can be, and things can go wrong all of the sudden. That would be my one concern, Caleb. And when those things start to happen, they can go downhill quickly. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Rick Barnes. I agree with everything you said. I think his One vice is hot dogs. And I know he loves Griffin's hot dogs in Chattanooga. Like he's a huge fan of that little Griffin's hot dogs place. So I mean, he looks incredibly healthy. It looks like he can continue to do it. But we've all seen guys that have just up and said, this is a little bit too much. Now, to your point, I will say this. He looks like he's very comfortable with the transfer portal and the NIL. Had he not been, and I'll be honest with you, before that came along, I would have said Josh Heupel can handle this, Rod Delmonico can handle this, but man, I got a feeling Rick Barnes is going to hate this. Wouldn't you have before you've seen now Rick Barnes handle it? And he's handled it very well, very daftly for somebody that's 70 or 35.
I actually think what Rick Barnes has done, I think it helps him better because Rick Barnes more than anybody likes coaching or recruiting or anything like that. So I think with NIL and the transfer portal, he probably has what you would call a general manager scouting the 4-year guys that would take a last year at Tennessee to develop and bringing them in. And he's like, I just want to coach them. I honestly think that. I think that's why he embraces it. You see a lot of coaches who, can I tell you my most triggering thing about when a coach is hired, Dave?
Triggering thing?
Yes.
I'll tell you mine. Mine is when they hire the good-looking coach.
Okay. Mine is when you sell their ability to recruit over anything else. Because there are so many factors in recruiting. Derek Dooley was hired because he was the recruiting coordinator for LSU's national championship team under Nick Saban. Jeremy Pruitt was hired, and the first thing they said was great recruiter. Your resume and your scheme are more important than your recruiting because oftentimes schools recruit themselves. Rick Barnes, as a recruiter, he has proven to be a great recruiter in the past. I think but I think it's because of his resume. I think now he doesn't have to focus on recruiting as much because he can just have another assistant say, find me a 4-year guy that wants to finish his last year at Tennessee. I'll make him a great player and we can have a great team with it. And I think Sir Rick Barnes loves this because of that, because he can spend more time coaching. It actually puts less work on him. Now, as far as getting back to Kim Caldwell, we don't know where she is on the recruiting side of things. But she went straight for the transfer portal to upgrade her roster immediately too this year. Her whole team is basically transfer portal people. So we'll have to see what happens with her. But look, I think here's why I'm more excited about Rick Barnes and Kim Caldwell. I'll put it this way. I'm not so sure Kim Caldwell's style doesn't have a ceiling in women's basketball. Yeah, up-tempo, frenetic pace is great, but Dave, I'll just put this out there. If it's like the Bruce Pearl of women's basketball, I mean, Bruce Pearl doesn't have a national title.
He did make the Final Four, though.
He made one Final Four, but he's got 0 national titles. And I think because the reason is, I think the talent still, it's like football. You can have the great offensive scheme, but when it comes down to it, the team with the talent wins off Jimmys and Joes and is usually defensive oriented. Same kind of with women's basketball. I mean, all the rage of Caitlin Clark last year, and she's an amazing player and deserved Rookie of the Year, and she's going to be one of the best in the WNBA. But what happened when Iowa faced South Carolina, which was loaded with talent, and South Carolina said, we're going to slow it down and just give it to our bigs? Iowa could do nothing in the women's basketball national championship game. I think Rick Barnes could actually put together a team that could win off talent like that, that's just coached well and doesn't need a system. Can Kim Caldwell go beyond just running an exciting system with the Lady Vols?
Do me a favor. What are realistic expectations for Kim Caldwell this year?
I make the NCAA tournament. I'll even say make the second round of the NCAA tournament. Make the round of 32.
Okay, within 3 years, what are realistic expectations? That would be theoretically all her own players, right?
Yes.
Going into the third year.
I think with women's basketball, it's fair to expect an Elite Eight run within 3 years.
Okay. Within 5.
At least one Final Four run. I'm not going to say national championship nowadays because women's basketball is not what it was. There's a little bit of luck involved in winning a national title in women's basketball too now. I mean, Gino Auriemma hasn't won a national title in 8 years, and he's been running the most successful program since Pat Summitt's tragic illness. So it's hard for me to say, looking at that, just being the best program turns into winning a national title. Women's basketball has enough parity now to where, like football and like men's basketball, there's a little bit of luck that has to be involved.
No, I think that's true. And I think that Tennessee is they've been the more dominant team in their national championship runs, clearly. And really, for a lot of those years, it just took one player to be special. Now, you mentioned South Carolina. How deep did they go? I mean, they were 8 solid players deep. And I know Tennessee had the Meeks, but after the Meeks, there was a little bit of a fall off. And after that group, there was a little bit of a fall off. And let's face it, Candace Parker could almost win a championship for you on her own. And what was the big tall girl at UConn? I can't remember her name. She could almost win a championship for you on her own. Maya Moore would have to be included in that group. Bridget Gordon would have to be included in that group. Those players don't exist anymore because the game's gotten so much more deep.
Yeah, but South Carolina is still playing that style too. But you're right for the most part. South Carolina is playing that style because and can get away with it. But I on principle, I actually do agree with you. I think you need more skill. And South Carolina 2 years ago choked against Iowa and Caitlin Clark. So I think that I think you're right. You can't just, it used to be you land 1-star recruit, you're winning the next 2 or 3 national titles. Is that fair to say, Dave?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to be the case anymore in women's basketball. South Carolina didn't just have one player last year. They had a whole starting 5. Cardoso was their star, but they could go 5 to 8 deep with anybody scoring double figures, I mean. And so I think that what will Kim Caldwell do when she gets better players? For instance, we're seeing this with Josh Heupel. What has Josh Heupel done, Dave, this year? He ran a tempo-based offense his whole tenure as a head coach. It was all about the scheme, but then he got some Jimmies and Joes on defense, and he's kind of decided, let me adjust and win with Jimmies and Joes, hadn't he?
Yeah.
And can Kim Caldwell do that when she starts to get the players?
Well, I mean, don't we have the same question about Kim Caldwell that we would have about Josh Heupel? I mean, do we know that she can recruit against the Dawn Staleys of the world, against the, I know he's not where he was previously, but the Genos of the world? I mean, do we know that?
Again, the ability to recruit's overrated to me. I think you have to show you can have success early, and then the recruits will come. Particularly at a place like Tennessee and women's basketball. Let's be honest. The Lady Vols program recruits itself more than any program in women's basketball, if you have the right coach. I'm very, maybe, and you covered recruiting, maybe you see it differently than me, but I don't know many coaches that overcame substantive issues they had with scheming because they just out recruited other coaches. I just don't find that to be that common. I think when they do out recruit, it has to do with the program more than anything else. You can call Nick Saban a great recruiter. I can say that he took the LSU job just as LSU was willing to spend money and become a legitimate program in the state of Louisiana and won a national title with Louisiana kids, and that gave him all the credibility. I mean, did he just out recruit people at Alabama, or did he have the resume?
I thought Nick Saban out recruited people at Alabama and had the resume.
But could he have done it without the resume?
Well, he did it at LSU without the resume.
Yeah, but all he had to do was lock off the state of Louisiana. LSU was spending a lot of, you know this, Dave. Before 2000, before Mark Emmert took over, LSU was a joke of a program in what they put into the program, right?
Yes.
And
they spent more money on Mike the Tiger's cage, literally, than they did their own player facilities.
Exactly. And they upgraded those just as Nick Saban arrived. So would you say Nick Saban just recruited the state of Louisiana, or would you say LSU recruited the state of Louisiana by finally being a competent school?
No, I would say that. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. We'd love for you to be a part of Hooker's Corner, where you can win great prizes thanks to Sports Treasures. Sports Treasures, over 5 million Sports Treasures. Follow on Facebook at Sports Treasures TN. That's Sports Treasures TN, and you can get the latest, which is just awesome. They have all kinds of incredible products coming in, a lot about the Vols, as we would certainly encourage you to follow them on Facebook. And you'll be eligible, if you join Hooker's Corner, to win a weekly grand prize, which is a book or a Hooker t-shirt, and a monthly grand prize, which last month was a Dylan Sampson autographed mini helmet. We'll give away a John Henderson piece of memorabilia, which I know that's one of your favorites, Caleb. I'm not going to allow you to steal that. And if you're a member of Hooker's Corner for just $9.98 a month, you get increased recruiting coverage. You also get more interaction with me and Caleb Calhoun, and you'll be registered to win a Garmin watch brought to you by Rick Terry and Rick Terry Jewelry Design. So you can click on that QR code that was just up there, or you can check us out on the Patreon, Hooker's Corner. We would certainly appreciate that. And again, Rick Terry, they want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com, RickTerryJewelry.com. I got to be honest with you. I'm a guy, sports guy, and I haven't been big into women's basketball, but I honestly am more excited about what Kim Caldwell will do this year than what Rick Barnes will, because I think you're higher on Rick Barnes than I am. Your retort to that after a quick message from Neubert Collision Center.
Fifth year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Okay, so getting back to the Vols to watch, I'm going to throw a couple of more in there. You think this could be a monstrous day for Tennessee in terms of Nico could have a monstrous day, Dylan Sampson could have a monstrous day, because Mississippi State's defense is that bad. You also say the same about James Pierce because they can't protect the passer. Let's come up with some names that could take a step in their development. And I think there's one in particular that stands out to me, and a guy that I want to watch and I would have had on my 5 balls to watch, and that's Peyton Lewis. We don't know where exactly Deshaun Bishop stands, but if he's not ready to go, or even if he is, from what we saw from Peyton Lewis, shouldn't there be a level of excitement about what he could bring to Tennessee's tailback position?
Yeah, I think Peyton Lewis could actually. That's not a bad one. If Tennessee does what it should in the first half, again, part of this, Dave, is putting Mississippi State away early. And that's going to be more difficult than you think, because if they don't put Mississippi State away early, Peyton Lewis isn't going to get the reps you want him to get. So I think, but if they do, then yes, because Peyton Lewis showed what I expected him to show against Kentucky. He's a physical back. He hits the hole well. He can, win in the trenches on short yardage plays. He got a touchdown under center. So I think you're going to want to see more of that with him. I think that's a good one. I think Peyton Lewis is a good one. And also, you're right. You're going to see him on the field when they have to spell Dylan Sampson every now and then. So maybe they will see him. Maybe he will see meaningful time. So that's not a bad one. But Dylan Sampson is going to be more important to putting this game away, at least. You would agree with that, right?
No, I agree with that. I'm just picking some other guys that could have a big game and really help themselves. Here's one, Chaz Nimrod. He's shown flashes of being pretty good, and he's shown flashes of not being an SEC receiver. So this is the type of game where if I'm Josh Heupel and he doesn't show up and play well, then I'm not sure how big of a factor he's going to be in the Georgia game, barring interceptions. I'm sorry, barring mistakes.
See, I'm already putting Mike Matthews in over Nimrod.
But it's not happening.
I know that, but the thing is, Chaz Nimrod's claim to fame was, I'm not that athletic, I'm not that fast, but at least I have good hands that can catch the ball. Well, he can't catch the ball either now. So what good are you?
Well, yeah, but I don't think Matthews is a factor because they wanted him on the outside instead of at slot receiver. I think at least Chaz Nimrod gets a look.
Okay, well, I think
I'm not arguing Matthews should get the look, but
yeah,
I don't think
he absolutely should. Yeah, no, I agree. So that's kind of an interesting one. Same with Chris Brazill. I think he's shown himself to be better than Nimrod, but he had a bad drop last week. But we'll have to see how that goes. I don't think you're messing with Brew on the outside. I know that. Look, whatever you want to say about Brew, he's such a physically imposing receiver.
No, I agree. But Mike Matthews, did you see the pancake block that made it on Get Up on ESPN?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I didn't know he had that in him. Last Look brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. We saved the best for last. Look at me. No contacts, no glasses. LASIK correction surgery. Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn.
to visit cctis.com. The information you need is easy to access, and setting an appointment is as simple as clicking the tab. Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor & Hahn, and Eye Care Optical at cctis.com, simply the best.
So I think I know your answer to this. Who are you more comfortable with moving forward? And these are two players who play two way different positions. Max Gilbert or Chaz Nimrod?
No, Max Gilbert. Chaz Nimrod's not an SEC receiver to me, and you said he looks like one. I don't think he looks like one. I didn't think he was one last year. I gave Joe Milton a bit of a pass on some games last year because Chaz Nimrod was one of his top 2 receivers. So I'm more comfortable with Max Gilbert. I'm not going to bail on Max Gilbert because as a first-year starter, he had one bad game as a kicker. That happens to kickers.
No, I said I didn't think he looked like a SEC receiver.
Okay. You said he showed flashes at times.
There's been a couple times he hauled in a pass that was above his head. But again, those should be routine passes. I mean, just because you're out there making a catch and making a play on occasion, that to me is flashes. But that's not flashes of greatness. I guess
that's fair. That makes sense.
A lot of people use flashes of great. I see what you're saying. A lot of people use flashes of greatness. Like he flashed. No, he's never flashed to me as a great receiver. He's flashed as a competent SEC receiver.
Okay.
Those are two way different things.
All right. I see what you're saying. I agree. I can agree with you on that. I think Nimrod is, shall we say, Nimrod, we know what he is. Max Gilbert still has the potential to be an all-SEC kicker. I'm still believing in his potential, and I don't think you jump on him after one game. Again, if he were a sophomore or junior, I'd have a different take. He's a first-year starter. First-year starters at kicker. I keep going back to this. You get these games from first-year starters at kicker. They're still settling into the college game. It's just such a totally different experience from anything they had in high school.
Okay, so Max Gilbert, getting back to him, you would not have a kicking competition before the Mississippi State game?
No, I would not.
Okay.
I would not. I'd stick with Max.
If he missed one field goal, would you open things up before Georgia?
How long is the field goal?
35.
Yes. Then I would open things up.
See, I don't think you can open it up after that because you're heading into such a big game against Georgia. You and I are on like completely opposite spectrums. We're usually pretty close. But I think you either open it up this week and you let him prove himself, or you're just going in one direction, whatever direction you think's the best before Georgia.
No, I'm giving. I think I have faith in player psyche to a certain degree to be able to step in as with 1 week of practice and get it going. And it's not like there's like first team reps at kicker. You're kicking. And by the way, I want to point this out with Max Gilbert too. I'm going to defend him on one thing. There were 2 high snaps on his missed field goals. Guys, I think the most underrated part of kicking, and I don't know who we could talk to about this, Dave, but get somebody on to talk to who you know that could talk about this. But if you've ever been curious, there have been plenty of times in history, guys, where you guys have wondered why a kicker regressed so much from a year to year or improved so much, and you never paid attention to the fact that the long snapper changed during that time period.
No,
Justin Tucker, and I'll give you a guy right now. Justin Tucker. You notice Ravens fans are wondering why he has just regressed so significantly the last 3 years after looking like the greatest kicker in history for 10.
Wasn't it snapper Morgan Cox from Tennessee?
Morgan Cox from Tennessee was a snapper. Is now with the Titans. The Titans, for all their faults, have had a weirdly improved kicking game for the past 3 years that they didn't have before. The long snapper makes a huge difference, guys. That's as much a part of making a field goal as the kicker is.
Agreed. Let me ask you another question. If he misses one field goal, and Tuberville's had a great week of practice, he misses one field goal, 35 yards against Mississippi State, do you consider trotting Tuberville out there to kick the second one?
Yeah, I would actually trot Tuberville out. I would.
Oh, wow.
You want to see how I would. You want to see how he is. And then you open up the competition because you're already screwed at that point. You don't have any psyche to protect. So you might as well see how it goes.
Interesting. All right. Want to encourage everybody to join, again, Hooker's Corner. Thank all of our many sponsors for being a part of the program. We'll be with you. Jimmy Himes a little bit under the weather today. We'll be joined by Will West and then Ollie Lane later this week. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, the show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.